Hey guys, it's Sandra. So this video is going to be all about my 2016 Goodreads challenge wrap up and my goals for my 2017 challenge. So last year I set a goal of 30 books for myself. 30 books may not seem like a whole lot to some people, but when you're trying to work, you're trying to live, you're trying to have a social life, things can sometimes get a little out of hand and you don't always have time to read. Well, I am very proud to say that of my 30 books, I actually managed to read 33. So it was really kind of cool to see that I went up over my 100% on my little Goodreads bar. And so I thought I'd give you a really quick little overview of all of the books that I read. And I will make sure that I will leave them in the description below if you want to take a look at them yourselves. Okay, so I've divided everything into 3 sections based upon my star rating because 33 books is a lot of books to try and get through in one video. So this first group will be my 3 stars. Starting off, we have The Queen's Secret by Victoria Lamb. This book was actually interesting to read, but if it moved a little too quickly sometimes and it dragged in other places. It was difficult to keep up with what was going on at times, so 3 out of 3, or 3 out of 5. The Favoured Queen by Erickson. This one, very young adult. Sentence structure was a little short. But it's all about Jane Seymour and her having to deal with being the new queen in the Tudor court. So, hey, whatever. And then we had Ruby Red by Kirsten. Gier. This is book number 1 of the trilogy. The second one's being Sapphire Blue and Emerald Green. Haven't read them quite yet, but I will be reading them this year. To Die For by Sandra Byrd. This one I gave 3 out of 5. It's all about Meg Wyatt and her friendship with Henry VIII's second queen, Anne Boleyn. So it was a different kind of book to read. It was nice to see that somebody else was getting a little bit of the spotlight. I gave it 3 stars. Afton of Margate Castle. Apparently this is book number 1 of the Thane Chronicles, but I'm not going to go any further with this book series, I don't think. This one was okay. I was happy with where it left off and what happened with all the characters, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Everybody's favorite controversial book to read, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, John Tiffany, and Jack Thorne. I wasn't really impressed with some of the way that the characters were handled. Ron Weasley's never been my favorite, but he was stupid in this play. Actually stupid. So, not a book I'm going to be reaching for anytime soon. The next 3 are all books by Kate Emerson. This beautiful collection of books here. This one is By Royal Decree. This one is Between Two Queens, and this one is At the Pleasure Palace. So obviously all by the same author, 3 very different women from Tudor period who don't really get a whole lot of recognition. Each one was interesting in her own way. I might read them again in the future. This next group of books is all books that I gave 4 stars to. Books that I may very well pick up and read again. So let's get started. If you don't know who this woman is, I feel very sorry for you. This, my friends, is Jackie Kennedy. The book is called Farewell, Jackie by Edward Klein. In it, you actually get a little more of an insight into the former First Lady, who, contrary to popular belief, was more than just that woman in the pink pillbox hat. Chris Colfer's The Land of Stories, A Grim Warning. This is book number 3. I believe there are now 5. I need to get caught up on books 4 and 5. This is all about twin brother and sister who happen to exist between the Land of Stories, which is filled with Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and all those really fun fairy tale characters that we remember as kids, and the real world, the world that we live in. And it's their adventures between the two and how they have to work together and work with a whole bunch of other people to save the Land of Stories. Roses Have Thorns by Sandra Byrd. I already read one of them. This is the second one, and I believe I have a third one to read this year. This one I liked a little bit better than the other one because I found that Elena was a really interesting character, very strong-willed and very willing to do what she needed to do in order to find her own happiness in a Tudor era. Royal Mistress by Anne Easter Smith. I've read a couple of her books and I have a couple more to go. She likes to pick a lot of historical figures who otherwise don't get a lot of notoriety. So obviously in this case we're talking about Jane Lambert, who was the royal mistress for King Edward IV, and the relationship that went on there. Of Beast and Beauty is a favorite of mine by Stacey J. I love these Beauty and the Beast fairy tale retellings, and this one I really fell in love with because it was just a little different. The world wasn't the same. There weren't any talking enchanted objects like there were in Disney, but hey, I could deal with that. Emma Compton wrote The King's Mistress. This one follows Alice and her dalliance with Edward III. So this one happens just a little bit before Anne Easter Smith's Royal Mistress book. The King's Mistress is a great novel. I'd probably pick it up again because the relationship between Alice and the king is actually really touching, and it makes you kind of feel bad that things just didn't work out the way you would hope. Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge is another one of those Beauty and the Beast retellings that I really fell in love with. I'd probably pick this one up again and read it because there are definitely moments where it got a little confusing, only because the castle keeps moving and you never know where you're going to end up when you go through that door the next time. The Sister Queens by Sophie Perinot. This is Eleanor and Marguerite, the two women who went on to marry kings of France and England, and the relationship that they struggled with because, sisterhood is forever. But when you're a woman, especially a queen in that day and age, you had to be loyal to your husband and your country, and that's really hard to do when you're trying to still love your sister who might be married to the enemy at the time. Alicia M. Libby wrote The King's Rose. This is a book all about Catherine Howard, the fifth wife to King Henry VIII. Not a bad book. Again, a very young adult style of writing. If you wanted to get into a historical fiction, this is a good starter book for, anybody who wants to give it a read. The Six Wives of Henry VIII by Alison Weir is probably my favorite collective novel in terms of what went on with Henry and each of his six wives. This is a really good novel. It gives you some insight about, kind of what was going on and the dalliances that were happening and whatnot. I had a really good time reading it. And it's a nice, big, thick one. So it took me a little while. Diane Hager wrote The Queen's Mistake. This is another one all about Catherine Howard, and it talks about how she was, a young kid who came to the court of Henry VIII, caught his attention, and because she was only 17 years old, got herself kind of stuck in some things that she really shouldn't have. Had a couple of affairs, got busted for it, and lost her life at the age of 17. The Clockwork Scarab by Colleen Gleason. So this is book number 1 of I don't even know how many anymore. I'm trying to find the second one in hard copy because I need them all to be in hard copy. Absolutely fell in love with these characters. You've got the niece of Sherlock Holmes and the sister of Abraham Van Helsing in like a kind of steampunkish Victorian London solving crimes. I mean, what's not to love? It's a great book. If you want something that's like fun and different, pick this one up. You won't be disappointed. The next two books are both Philippa Gregory. This one is The Lady of Rivers, which is the beginning of the Plantagenet War of the Roses section that she wrote, and this is The Kingmaker's Daughter, which comes somewhere kind of in the middle. So this one gives a lot of life to Jacquetta Woodville, who was the mother of Elizabeth Woodville. Supposedly the woman was a witch and their family descended from witches, and so there was a lot of speculation at that time as to whether or not Jacquetta and her daughter enchanted the king to falling in love with Elizabeth. And this one is about Anne Neville, the woman who married the notorious villain in history, Richard III. This one's kind of nice because it gives some life to a character that literally, if you read the Shakespeare, she's not a character. She's just boring. She's boring and submissive, and, this one gives her a little bit of fire, which is really nice. Karen Harper wrote The Queen's Confidant, and it's one that I would probably pick up again if I needed something, to read. I get to see Elizabeth of York, who happens to be the daughter of Elizabeth Woodville and the mother of the Tudor era. This one talks about how she wasn't really all that satisfied with the idea that her son Arthur died of natural causes and sickness, and so she sends some people to go and take a look and see, did he actually die of sickness or was he killed? Because she firmly believed that people plotted against her son and resulted in his death. The following books are ones that I gave 5 out of 5. I would definitely read them again, and chances are I will likely read them again because they are part of series that are either still developing or I don't have yet. So this is Rick Riordan's Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, The Sword of Summer. This is book 1. Book 2 was released just a couple of months ago. It is The Hammer of Thor. I haven't quite read it yet, so it's going to be read eventually in 2017. I've loved Rick Riordan ever since he came out with the Percy Jackson books. I think they're fantastic. It takes a lot of creativity to take all this, mythology, especially all of the different ones that he's touched now, and to bring them into modern society and make things fit in a way that isn't, totally off in left field. So I'm definitely going to be reading this one again at some point. Venom by Fiona Paul is book 1 of the Secrets of the Eternal Rose trilogy. I have book 2, which is Belladonna, and chances are I will be rereading this one before I dive into Belladonna. The third one, the name totally escapes me right now, but I will be getting my hands on it too because these books are phenomenal. They take place in Italy. They have murder, they have romance, they have drama, they have intrigue. I love them. I'm very excited to read the next ones. If you haven't given this series a try, please do. It's a phenomenal series. I'm in love with it, and this is only book 1. As You Wish, The Inconceivable Tales from the Making of the Princess Bride. So this is Carrie Eloise' kind of tell-all inside look at The Princess Bride, which if you haven't read it, do it. If you haven't seen the movie, do it. I've loved this movie ever since I was a child. I don't think there will ever be replaced in my heart because, I mean, come on. It's the ultimate torture, romance, revenge, sword fights, true love, you know. You got Andre the Giant, you've got Billy Crystal, you've got Mandy Patinkin, you've got Robin Wright, who is absolutely stunning, especially in this movie because she's so pretty. Just do yourselves a favor and read it, okay? I'm slightly biased about this one, being a very proud Canadian, but 100 Things Blue Jays fans should know and do before they die, by Steve Clark. Gave this one 5 out of 5 because I am incredibly devoted to my baseball team. I'm sure that anybody from the United States who's watching will understand what I mean. It's got great little things in here. It's 100 different facts, things that you should know, things that you maybe didn't know. You know, little things that I didn't know from the Riccardi era that I thought were just like, whoa, that actually happened, and people like let that happen, and what? Great book. If you're a Jays fan, give it a read. And another Rick Riordan is The Trials of Apollo. Book 1, The Hidden Oracle. When you take a god like Apollo, who is known for being a bit of a troublemaker, and you take away his powers and you force him down on Earth in the body of like a 16-year-old kid, you're asking for trouble. You really are. So this is Apollo, knowing that he's really pissed off his dad, Zeus, and he's trying to figure out what he did and how to make up for it. This is only book 1. I'm really excited for book 2 because Apollo is snarky and sarcastic and like everything that you would expect of a 16-year-old kid. If you haven't read these books, you're really doing yourself a misservice. I don't care how old you are. Okay, I love them. So the last little group of books is actually a bunch of books that I have currently returned to their owners because I borrowed them or I've misplaced them in my cleaning binge. Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. It's only one of 3. I haven't read the second or third ones yet, but that entire world is absolutely amazing. I love it. I don't even know what to say about it because it's just so interesting. If you haven't given them a read, I really strongly recommend that you do. I think they're fantastic pieces of fantasy, and honestly, every single page I was like, what's going on now? So do yourself a favor, just read them. I gave 4 out of 5 stars to Danielle Page's Dorothy Must Die. It is a retelling of The Wizard of Oz, and it's done in a way that you may not think it would happen. Not everybody that you thought is the good guy is actually a good guy. Not everybody you thought is the bad guy is actually a bad guy. It's kind of great that way. I do have book 2. Asha was nice enough to let me borrow it. I haven't read it yet. Sorry, girl. I will get on that. And I'm curious to see what ends up happening because I know that book 2 is considerably smaller than book 1, and that always makes me a little nervous. I also, this past year, read Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. It's a classic that I think everybody should pick up at one point in their life because it deals with friendship and sisterhood, and growing up to find out what you want to do and who you're meant to be, and love, and like all those coming of age type topics that you would expect. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I can identify with a lot of the people in this book. I mean, everybody thinks that they're a little bit of Joe. Imaginative writer who just wants to go out and find her place in the world and write something amazing that kind of helps to solidify her place in life. I'm also happen to be a lot of Meg being the eldest sister, who is the responsible one, who really just wants to fit into places, and she wants, the love and the security of knowing that she's not alone, and she wants to be able to say that she succeeded in her life. Now, her idea of succession is, a little different than mine, but hey, that's okay. And finally, it was The Tudor Secret by C.W. Gortner that I read and also gave 4 out of 5 stars. I now have books 2 and 3. I need to find book 1 so I can read it again. I have no idea what I've done with it. This is what happens when I decide to clean. So yeah, this is my wrap up of 2016. My goals for 2017, I'm almost finished with my very first book. The very first book being The Secret Bride by Diane Hager. Deals with Mary Tudor and her relationship with Charles Brandon, which didn't go over so well at certain points in life. My goal, though, is to actually do a much better job of reviewing the books. I found that last year I got into a habit of I'd write out my star system and be like, oh, I'll fill in the actual written text later. And I never really did. I never left the actual review of what I thought of the characters or the plot or the setting or the writing style or anything like that. And I need to do a better job of doing that. I'm also hoping to do some more videos here for my booktube and hopefully not get sick enough that I miss a whole month at a time. So, did you read any of these books that I did? Did you like any of them? Did you not? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really love to hear what your thoughts are. And hopefully I will be back to you soon with maybe a tag, maybe a book review. Who knows? All right. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.